everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Up-Beet Dietitians. Today, we are joined by a new guest named Carlie.
Carlie is a registered dietitian, owner of virtual nutrition private practice Crave with Carlie, which focuses on women's preventative nutrition, specifically in diabetes and high blood pressure, and helping people improve their relationship with food.
Carlie is a mom, a wife, and a former dancer who currently lives in Baltimore, Maryland. And we are talking with her all about carbs. It's a great one. You're going to love it. Thumbs up. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Carlie, welcome to the Up-Beet Dietitians podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited. Today, we're going to get into all things carbs, which, I mean, that's going to be a great conversation. Everybody loves carbs, or if they don't, we're going to go over why maybe they should. Yeah. But before we get into the good, juicy carb stuff, walk us through like a day in the life, what you do for work, hobbies. Let our listeners get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, so my name is Carlie. I'm currently based in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm originally from New York, Long Island, born and raised. I went to school at University of Delaware, where I got my dietetics degree, as well as did my distance dietetic internship to become a registered dietitian. Day in the life right now is very different. You know, ask me 3 months from now and it will be different. I have a toddler, so he kind of runs my schedule right now. And this summer we did not have a babysitter. So it's really based on his schedule. And when I have time, I do social media content for my business, Crave with Carlie, a virtual nutrition private practice. I do most of my marketing through social media. I do one-on-one counseling, helping women improve their food, their relationship with food, to help them reach their nutrition goals, their health goals, so they can enjoy eating again and not be so confused about what to eat and overwhelmed, and just be confident in their food choices. So every day is different. You know, sometimes it could be one-on-one counseling virtually. It can be working with brand partners, you know, recipe developing, writing blogs, or it can be watching Finding Nemo and trying to comb through his hair. So every day is different right now.
What an amazing schedule, but also sounds very chaotic, but understandably so, that your toddler runs your life. I think whenever we have moms on the podcast, it tends to be a very similar story that we'll hear. But amazing. Now that in all things, we love everything you do, hence why you are on the podcast. But let's get into the bulk of the episode. So Hannah and I were talking about this actually before you hopped on, how we haven't talked about carbs in a very, very long time. So we're going to do a general little overview. Can you talk us through like what are carbs? What types of foods contain carbs? Because there is this like preconceived interpretation of what a carb is, but could you define that for us?
Yeah, so I love talking about carbs. Carbs are one of my favorite topics, especially talking to my clients about it, just because it's always like an eye-opener. Carbs are essentially sugar. You know, it's glucose that, you know, the number one energy source that our body uses. And what are carbs is kind of how I like to break it down, is the famous My Plate and looking at the different food groups. And I would say about 20% of my clients actually get the answer right. And as we know, as dietitians, technically all the food groups have carbs. So when people say they are eliminating carbs or cutting out carbs, I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Like, let's talk about it. What do you mean when you say that? You know, what are actually carbs? And you'll be surprised how many people, you guys know, but you know, people may be surprised, like a lot of people don't know what carbs are. It's like, oh wow, dairy has carbs. I didn't know that. Fruit has carbs. You know, protein, your plant-based proteins, your beans, peas, lentils are, you know, great sources of carbs. So it's always just an eye-opener. And I think for some actually clients, it's like they need like a week to digest that, because they're just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize that. So I think when people talk about cutting out sugar, they may think about more the simple carbs that are, you know, your cookies, your cakes, your treats, your sodas, juices. So you have your simple carbs, which are carbs that just break down really quickly, and you feel hungry, you know, very fast. And then you have your complex carbs, which are mostly coming from those food groups that I was talking about, your plant-based proteins, your grains, fruits, vegetables, your complex carbs. They take a little bit longer to digest, we're fuller longer, and they help, stabilize our blood sugars and typically have more nutrients.
I feel like it's like a universal dietitian experience to have someone say, I'm cutting out carbs. And we're like, okay, what does that mean exactly?
Tell
Like,
me
let's
more.
elaborate on that.
Yeah. And then they're always like shocked when I say, because I don't know if you guys do this visual, but I like to visualize it like in slices of breads, because as we know, like carb counting. So I'm like, you need, like, I'm just going to give like the average 15 slices of breads a day. Like, I'm not telling them to eat 15 slices of bread. You want to, have variety. And they're just like, how is that even possible?
Shell shocked. Yeah.
How is that even possible? So yeah, we need our carbs.
Well, that's a good segue, actually. Tell us why. Like, if someone is like, okay, I get it, like carbs are important, yada, 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 we get them from these foods. Why do they actually matter so much? Like, why are us RDs always being so annoying about how important they are?
Well, because as we know, diet culture typically says the opposite, and people actually end up fearing it. So they don't want to touch it. They feel guilty about eating it when they want it and they crave it. So, and we know why you're craving it, because you're restricting it. So let's look at how we can incorporate it into your diet. So, you don't feel guilty about it. Learn about carbs so you actually understand it better. But we need it because, like I said, it's the number one energy source and the preferred source that our body uses. About half of our energy should be coming from carbs, and I have to stress the variety of carbs. We shouldn't just be getting it from one source. I'm all about variety and different types of foods. So, knowing where to get your carbs from, how much, for you that feels good for you, and everybody's body is different. I think a good analogy is just like a plant. Different plants, depending on the species, need a different amount of sunlight for their energy. So everybody, even like our own bodies through our lives, from a baby to teenager to, if you're a woman, maybe pregnancy, to like when you get older, your energy needs change. So your carb needs also change. And it's just, that's where that education piece and working with a dietitian, I think is so helpful. So you don't have to fear carbs. You have a better understanding, and yeah, you feel good about it.
I'm sure so many people are so excited to hear everything you're saying right now, just because of how much carbs get demonized all the time. I feel like, I don't know if I have a good idea of like how many years they've been demonized, but I feel like every corner of the internet, you can find it in some way, whether it's like keto or the carnivore diet, or just like general carb hating in general. I'm sure many people are happy to hear that. Let's go to the flip side. Say someone does choose to restrict these wonderful carbs from their life.
Yeah.
How, or what might they experience, and what might their body go through if they're still on the fence?
Yeah. So when people are, I'm all about meeting you where you're at. So if you want to do keto, which is a low carb diet, my first answer is no. Why? And why do you want to do that? And for how long, I think is a good question to ask, because we know low carb cannot be a long-term solution. I feel like, what year was it when keto was like such a big thing, like 2018? Like, how many of those people are still doing keto now? So we know it's not long term. And when we are low, low blood sugars, low carb, for me personally, I'm hangry. You don't want to talk to me. I have a headache. I'm just weak. I'm tired. And yeah, when you are through that ketosis phase, you are fatigued, headache, brain fog, bad breath. So those are some things when you do restrict carbs at first. So yeah, those can be symptoms that we don't want. I don't think we realize how much our food can impact our energy levels, our mood, our sleeping, and just like living life.
And I feel like people tend to blame themselves too when they experience those types of symptoms. They're like, oh, I have so little willpower, so little motivation. Why am I craving these carbs? It's like, because you need them. Your body is like going through like a deficiency of that particular nutrient. Like, it's not your fault. Your body truly is like screaming at you to get that exact thing in.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed how you brought up like asking the question of how long they plan to be it on. I don't know if I ever really think of that when I'm talking to anyone, or like just in general when I'm seeing anything online where someone states they do some type of like dietary modification and there's no really discussion of like how long this is supposed to be for or like what you plan to do. And I don't know if that's really a thought that many people have. I feel like, and I don't want to speak for everyone in the world because obviously I do not know everyone's thoughts. But when people start maybe like a low carb diet and they're like, I'm going to start doing this the long term, as in like year, 2 years, like multiple years, might not be always in the forefront and of their brain. And it's just something like good to think about and reflect on, like, how long do I want to sustain this for? So I love that question. I will be keeping that in mind for my own personal resources. Yeah. But something really good to reflect on.
Definitely. Because I'm all about like, do what's best for you, but like, how long can you do that? Do you see yourself doing that for 10 years, 15 years? People like when they try to change their nutrition, they tend to go like 100,000% all in. Like, I'm cutting out this. I'm like working out 2 times a day, 7 times a week. I'm like, what's going on? Slow down. Like that's a lot, yeah. Do you see yourself really doing, is that sustainable for you?
Unfortunately, what I see a lot too with that is they have the mindset of, okay, I'm going to cut these carbs. I'm going to go in 100%. I'm going to lose this weight. And once I lose the weight, then I'll be able to reintroduce those carbs again. Yeah. What are your thoughts on like that approach? If you ever do see that?
Yeah, so when I see that, that's a good question. So I feel like because they're so motivated and you don't want to like be like, no, that's not gonna work. Like, even though it's not. So I don't know how to answer that. So sorry, can you answer me that question?
Of course. Yeah. So I think what I was kind of saying is when people, you mentioned like them, like they get this idea in their mind of like improving their nutrition, whatever way, and they tend to like go 110% with the intention of like losing that weight quickly, because it usually is a weight loss thing a lot of times. They have this like motivation to go for it. And then they intend to, I hear like a lot with like intuitive eating. I know I'm making the question even more confusing. I apologize, but they'll say like, oh, I'll start intuitive eating, for example, once I lose the weight. Or they'll say, I will reintroduce those carbs once I lose the weight. So they kind of feel as though they don't deserve to eat those carbs or eat really whatever food they could be craving until their body is at a certain size. Yeah. So I guess however you want to answer that, I don't even know if you feel like you want to answer what you would say to someone who maybe brought that concern to you, but I was just kind of expressing, I do see that quite a bit, which is pretty unfortunate, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that too. And I think my approach would just kind of be like, if they have had carbs before, or they maybe tried working with me and like went my way, I'm like, okay, like, how did you feel when you introduced that? How did you feel when you didn't have the carbs? Like, did you like, people sometimes don't connect the dots. Like, oh, when I actually realized I wasn't craving so much food at night because I had more carbs during dinner and lunch. So it's like trying to help them make the decision themselves, because we know the answer. So it really is meeting them where they're at, and timing is everything. Like if they're in that first like highly motivated phase, but if they continue coming back to me, I know that they can trust me and believe me. So I don't want to kind of, break that trust by being like, this is not going to work, and like just kind of crush their dreams. So really just kind of like asking those questions, like, how do you feel when you don't have carbs, and how do you feel when you do? And typically it's like, they know that they don't feel hungry as much. They aren't craving the sweet things as much, and they feel better.
Yeah. I would say I'm biased, but that is one good thing I love about dietitians for the most part is I feel like are pretty good as a species of like meeting our patients or clients in the middle versus like social media, where they of course are just like, no, you must like completely do this ridiculous strict thing or else you're wrong or whatever. So I love that approach. I very much value that.
Yeah.
So we've been talking all things carbs and like the importance of incorporating them, how they might affect your body if you don't have them. And we keep talking about like from like a biological standpoint, what they are. What are some examples though, that maybe some of your favorites that like you like to give out or that you like to enjoy yourself?
Yes.
Or meals, snack ideas? What are your top choices?
I really love all carbs. My top choice. Oh, that's hard. It really
A hard
depends on the
question.
day. It depends on the day, it depends on the time, it depends on the month. Like, but I would say like right now, like I'm craving corn. So like corn, sweet potatoes. I love like 16 bean soup, lentil soups. I'm Caribbean, I'm Haitian American, so I love my rice and beans. I love oatmeal. I love oatmeal. Like I can have that all the time. For breakfast, love putting in my smoothie and just fruit. I love all carbs. Like I love fruit. And I think what could be helpful is like when I crave something sweet, I'm like, okay, what do I really want? You know, is it just because like I'm hungry now? Like it's been a while because I'm hungry and I should have a meal. And then if I'm still craving like that popsicle or ice cream, then I can have it after, you know? And I know it takes a lot of time to get to that point for some people. But like, yeah, I try to go for my whole foods, those complex carbs first before I go for the sweets. Cause I know, like we said, they're simple carbs. They give us quick energy. So we're going to feel good at that point. But in an hour, I'm going to be still like leaving, like, I want more. And I'm not going to want to feel like that.
Yeah, that's good advice. I heard a video today where the creator said something along the lines of like, eat what you want, like whatever you're craving, like eat it, add what you need. So using that gentle nutrition there to like add higher fiber carbs, add some protein, add some fat. That way, like in this example, simple carbs don't just keep you satisfied for 2 seconds. Like you still get to enjoy the popsicle, the ice cream, whatever it is that you want to eat, but add what you know your body needs. So it actually does serve you a little bit better.
Yes, like I love that because for some reason people think like dietitians don't like eat delicious food. But like, yeah, like when I'm having a burger or pizza or whatever it might be, like, okay, how can I add my vegetables? How can I add more fiber? Like, how can I, not only does it like make it more nutritious, but it just like makes it taste better. Like, yeah.
Totally.
I want to hold on. I might have just unmuted myself and accidentally cut myself out. I want to quickly go back to your oatmeal because you spoke so passionately about it. I need to know what your favorite oatmeal toppings are.
Okay, so this is hard. So if I'll do the toppings. The toppings, I always have to have like almond butter in it, with some walnuts crushed in. I'm all about my seeds, my chia seeds, flax seeds, blueberries, strawberries are my typical fruits. Sometimes I just started adding peach, like the peach has to be like very sweet. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. So if it's a very sweet peach, that's another topping I like to add in, but it's typically like blueberries, strawberries. And if I don't, sometimes I don't add like actual like sugar to my oatmeal. I add banana to it just to sweeten it up. But that's my go-to. Yeah.
So you mentioned you only talk about toppings. Do you have a preference of the actual like oats, like the type of oat, if it's flavored?
That's
So
good.
now
I
need to know your entire oatmeal order.
So I like like steel quick oats. You know, I like to like on the pot. I don't like to put in the microwave. Like the water boil, add a little bit of salt, some cinnamon sticks, some star anise. I add the oats to it. Sometimes carnation milk, sometimes almond milk, sometimes whole milk, depending on what milk I have. Maybe drizzle some coconut oil in there. Oh, definitely a lot of cinnamon, as much cinnamon as I can. And that's how I usually have like make it in the pot. And then I add those toppings.
That sounds incredible. I feel like you need, I don't know if you have a series on social media, but now I feel like you need an oatmeal series.
Oh yes. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, actually. I love oats. And my son loves oats too. So it's just like an easy, like I make it at least once a week, like in a big pot, and it's just like so easy. It literally takes like 5 minutes to make.
And it is so much better on the stove. Like it takes a little bit longer, but like it's so worth it.
Yeah.
And it reduces your chance of exploding.
I hate that.
In the microwave. That's like really a downer.
That is devastating when that happens.
Oh my gosh. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing. I know it wasn't
Yeah, you got
super
very
diet-
into that, Emily. I don't know where that came from for you. That's
Well,
funny.
I'm not the biggest oatmeal fan. I think it's because I don't make good oatmeal. I like add brown sugar and nuts, and normally it's just whatever's around. I should add fruit. I really like fruit. I don't know why I do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, my husband
But I
did
had
not
to
like
know.
oatmeal until I started cooking them for him.
Ooh.
So,
There we go. Well, now
That's
you've
such a
inspired
touch.
me.
yes, keep me posted.
I will. But thank you for sharing again. Going back to carbs in general and diet culture in general, do you have any other thoughts about carbs that you'd like to share for listeners who maybe are kind of in a place where they're trying to make peace with carbs being okay to incorporate into their life, or even like now they're in the pre-contemplation stage of change. Do they
Yeah.
want to make a change there? But
They're
maybe they're
thinking about
hearing
it. They're
it.
contemplating. Yeah.
Hearing,
No,
maybe
it's
they're
contemplation.
there. That's
I
why
don't
like
know.
pre-contemplation, have they even been exposed
They're
to the
thinking
idea?
about it. They're thinking about it.
Maybe
Yeah.
for those fellows.
They're thinking about
And then
thinking about
people,
it.
yes.
Mhm.
Any last thoughts for all those individuals?
Yeah, so carbs is in this culture that we're in is difficult. So I would say it's so hard to do, to get to, if you're not at that place right now to have that good relationship with carbs, is to cancel out the noise that, continues to perpetuate those negative, thoughts about carbs. And that can be hard because sometimes it just comes to you when you don't even want it to. But that's why I think it's so important to, have your nutrition accountability, whether it's a dietitian, personal trainer that like aligns with you and like what you're looking for as well. Reading books, getting that knowledge is so helpful because I had a client who we talked about carbs and she was like, I know I need to eat carbs and I feel better. I just still fear it. And it's just like, it's okay. It's okay. It's like great that you like acknowledge that, like how you're feeling about it and you're trying to get there and it may take time. And I just think it's just so important to keep asking yourselves questions, being gentle with yourself. When it comes around food, it's not going to happen overnight. It's forever evolving. So yeah, that's my advice that, just continue to listen, get that knowledge and get to know yourself more about carbs, your relationship with it.
Yeah. Giving yourself like so much grace because whoever you are, you're likely being told from so many different outlets that like you shouldn't be eating these things. And so it makes total sense if it would feel real tough to like get those in on a regular basis, like multiple times a day. If you're being told from others that that's not the right thing to do.
No. And there's no such thing as good carb or bad carb. There's all carbs can fit in somewhere.
Yes.
Yes. I just posted a video on TikTok actually the other day, and there's like a battle going on about like, of course, like fruit being the good type of natural sugar. That's the only kind we should be able to eat. Where even though in some other videos, people even demonize the fruit natural good sugar. So like you literally just can't win. But I think that's the bottom line is there is no good carb, bad carb. They're all going to break down to glucose in the end anyway. So eat what you like.
Yep. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Carlie, for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure. If you want to hear Carlie's answers to our bonus question today, you'll have to check out the Beet Deets content. It is hamburger related, so very exciting there. But before we let everyone go, Carlie, let our listeners know if they want to hear more from you, where can they find you? Anything you want to promote, this is your time to shine.
So I'm most active on Instagram at Mindful Eating Dietitian. My website is www.cravewithcarlie.com. And you can reach me through that.
Awesome. Well, we will leave links below to all those so you guys can find Carlie very easily. But yeah, Carlie, thank you again so much for coming on. It has been long overdue for us to talk about carbs again. And this is like a perfect way to do it. Like a little bit of biology, a little bit of like mental health in there too. And like actually enjoying the food we're eating. So I think our listeners are going to really like this episode a lot.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I had fun.
All right. Thanks for listening today, guys. We will Catch you next week in the next episode.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode of the Up-Beet Dietitians with your hosts, Emily Krause and Hannah Thompson.
We appreciate you all so much for continuing to support us. In order to support us and sustain the success of this podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review.
If you'd like to provide us feedback for future episodes and guest stars, follow us on Instagram at the Up-Beet Dietitians.
Lastly, you can show us support by providing a monthly donation using the link at the end of our bio.
Once again, thank you so much for listening today, and stay tuned next Wednesday for a new episode. Until then, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.